Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. It is cold outside, but today's a great show. And despite the weather on both ends of this Zoom conversation, it was important that we get this particular bit of information out to the world. Let me explain to you what today's show is about. Today's show is about going back to our roots. And when I say roots, I mean roots. We're talking natural herbs. We're talking weeds. We're talking universal enlightenment. We're talking about basically going back to nature. I'd like to welcome to the show all the way from Boulder, Colorado. She's definitely an expert in this field, and that's why she's on the show. Let me explain to you too about this show in this particular episode. We're about educating and empowering and providing resources for individuals. Today, that's really what we're going to do. We're going to go back to some old ways of doing things and trying to incorporate those into the new evolution of America, of the world, basically. I'd like to welcome to the show the one, the only, Brigitte Mars. Did I get it right?
You did, Andre. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
Thank you. You know, we talked yesterday in depth, and um, let's just put it plain and simple. I was in tune with a lot of what your mission is. Let's get down to who exactly is Miss Mars.
Well, thank you so much. Um, I'm Brigitte Mars. I'm a mother of two grown daughters who are named Sunflower and Rainbow. I'm a grandmother. I'm also a university professor at Naropa University. I've taught there, I teach herbal medicine there for 40 years. I'm also the author of 17 books on natural medicine. And when I think about, my prayer to the Creator is, I want to help people, I want to help the planet. And what a wonderful opportunity to be able to tell people that we've been bamboozled to think that weeds are the enemy, that we should be spraying pesticides, which are a serious affront or a sort of an insult to the Earth Mother, and that we really could be saving thousands of dollars, saving our health, saving the planet by, rather than spraying the weeds and wasting water, we could be so much healthier if we would learn to eat the things like dandelions and nettles and chickweed and violets. And that, so often we give the responsibility of our health over to someone else, when really we make decisions every day, every time we decide what we're going to eat for lunch or dinner. We're either improving our health or we're undermining our health. So I'm really here to empower people, as you said so eloquently, Andre, that, there's things that we can do to improve our health. And in the meantime, we're also helping our planet, because somewhere there's going to be fields of beautiful flowers and
Yes.
things that are medicine, that are beautiful. Then there's going to be bees and butterflies. Like, let's make a better world, because I'll tell you, we need some help, don't
We
we?
sure do. We shared a little bit when we was talking about your childhood and growing up. When you mentioned names like Sunshine and Rosebuzz and all this, what was it like for you growing up in a child as in your childhood? Because it sounds like there was so much love and peace and harmony in your village or your home in general.
Well, I would actually have to say, Andre, that a lot of my inspiration came from my grandmother, who was French Canadian. And I
Mhm.
would go visit her. And I grew up in upstate New York, where I was, eating, junk food and boil in a bag vegetables, and was on antibiotics all the time. And then I would go visit my French Canadian grandmother, and it was like stepping back in time 100 years. She used folk remedies, things like garlic and honey and cabbage and apple cider vinegar, and they really worked. They weren't expensive. And at a very early age, I thought, this is medicine for the people. They grow in the yard or the garden
Hmm.
and they taste good. And I like this a lot better than getting a lot of shots and always being on pills that seem to have all kinds of side effects. So um, I would say that I made a conscious choice in my teens. I just thought, I really like this natural way. I'm suspicious of all the ingredients written on the cereal boxes.
Hmm.
Even as a kid, I thought maybe that's what's making people sick and all the chemicals in our body care products. So I just, as a teenager, said, no, I'm going natural. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to buy the organic. I'm going to learn how
Right.
to grow
Hmm.
things. I want to learn the names of the plants outside. And of course, when I heard about the hippie movement, first before the hippies, there were beatniks. But I just kind of said, get back to the land, peace, love, unity, sharing. I don't know. That sounded like a really good idea to me. Of course, I grew up during the, Vietnam War era, and I just thought, boy, is war the only way that we can do this? So,
Was your mom and dad um, that enthusiastic about nature as well? You mentioned your
no,
grandmother, but what was your mom and dad like?
no, no, my mom, it's a little embarrassing to say this, but my mom would be like driving in the car after eating some kind of fast food, roll down the window, throw all the trash outside. And I'd say, Mom, that's terrible. And she'd say, it gives people jobs. And so I knew early on, like, no, that's not right. It makes the world uglier,
Right, right.
So I lived on a farm in the Ozarks in Missouri for a while. I lived in a teepee, and I learned a lot about the food and medicine that was growing in the woods.
Hmm.
And I think, it said, Andre, that the average American recognizes over 1,000 logos
Right,
and the things that they're associated with it. Like even kids who don't know how to read, they drive by something and it's like, oh, look, they recognize the logo.
right.
And yet they recognize less than five plants or five birds. And
Hmm.
so I'm all about teaching people like dandelions are edible. I actually just wrote a book called Dandelion Medicine. Um, do you know that every part of the dandelion is edible? The leaves are edible. They're one of the ancestors of lettuce. The flowers are edible. They're high in lutein, which is good for our eyes.
Hmm.
You can eat the root as a vegetable. You can even boil the stems like noodles. Now, of course, we don't want to pick things right next to a busy, polluted street or anything.
Right.
So it's probably going to be better in the backyard than the front yard and all of that. But farmers have long known that where the dandelions grow, that's a good place to put the garden because the dandelions actually help aerate the soil. But somehow, on TV, they say, oh, you've got dandelions, you need to buy some kind of toxic product to kill these beautiful flowers that are one of the first foods for the bees.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that we have this situation to where we're not being told the values of certain plants and their benefits for us to consume? I mean, every time you turn around, you're saying, you hear this, hey, kill this weed, kill this weed, but you're saying this is bullshit. Why are they keeping this from us? I would rather have something that's going to be healthier for me as opposed to taking plant based. But then another part of this question is: isn't most of these pharmaceutical drugs made from plant based material?
Well, around 1900, about 80% of all the pharmaceuticals were made from plants. I mean, even birth control pills came from wild yam, aspirin came from willow bark and meadowsweet. Penicillin is a mold, which is a natural primitive type of plant. But um, companies, which were very often funded by the big pharmaceutical companies, found that if they're going to do all this research, they didn't really see nature as benevolent. They saw it as like nature's something we need to dominate and control. It's kind of wild and free. So they found like we're just going to synthesize what we believe is the active ingredient from a plant, or we're going to um, synthesize it and make a chemical substitute for it. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, a lot of times that led to side effects that you didn't get when you were using a plant that also had vitamins and minerals and chlorophyll. But one of the things that happened in this country in 1917, the Rockefeller Foundation sent one man around to all the medical schools in the country
Mhm.
and made a deal with them. And the deal was, if you will only teach the new modern medicine, you'll get funding for your medical school. If you persist in teaching the old fashioned, old wives' tale medicine,
Right.
no funding for you. And yet in Europe, the old wives' tales and the folk remedies never left. And, when people say, well, the herbs haven't been tested yet, I would like to say they've been used by millions of people for thousands of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very often we're seeing drugs that are released to the public
Mhm.
that maybe were tested on animals or tested on healthy college students, that we don't really know what's the long-term effect of them being used for a decade, or is it safe for pregnant women? Is it safe for the elderly? And again, people can do whatever they want.
Right.
But when we look at our planet really being sick and in peril, our waterways, the air, we also just have to watch an hour of TV to see, like, this is crazy. We are being advertised, eat this junk food, take these drugs. If you eat that junk food, you're going to need to take those drugs. Better yet, don't eat that food and find out what natural things can support you. And in the meantime, you're helping to create a greener earth.
What are some of the some of the plant-based product? What are some of the plants that have been around for centuries that are truly a must to incorporate in our bodies? And on top of that, why should we be consuming them?
Well, one good one to stock up on is garlic. And garlic has long been used as a bronchodilator, so it's really good for lung complaints. I am fighting a little cold right now, or at least I was yesterday. And what I did was I baked a sweet potato, and after I baked it, I put 3 or 4 cloves of raw garlic in it. And I feel so much better today. So garlic was used during the bubonic plague. Garlic was used by Dr. Albert Schweitzer when he didn't have access to penicillin in Africa. Hey, garlic, we all have it. However, garlic is more medicinal when it's raw than cooked. So eating garlic bread is not going to help your health as much as putting some raw garlic, on some sweet potatoes or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So garlic is a really important one. The other one, I already mentioned dandelions. They're not the enemy. I think they're one of the answers. It's like we have free food and free medicine that could be growing everywhere, and yet the media is saying, oh. I also think that people kind of associate these folk remedies as being old school or something from
Prehistoric
the
times.
yeah, or like, my parents say, why do you want to use those old wives' tales? That was something used by poor people in the old country. You're like, we're American. But yet, it's not to say that I don't embrace, I love that we have internet, and I love, all the modern conveniences. But I think that we need to also keep in our minds and hearts, we need to respect the earth. And by spraying pesticides, by wasting water. Andre, do you know that in America we use a third of our water to water grass, which is not something people eat? As a matter of fact, then people have to buy gas, drive in their car to buy gas, and then they mow down this crop of grass that they've worked so hard to grow.
Mm.
I mean, that's crazy when we really should be using our lawns to grow salad. And, I'm so glad that there's so many great natural food stores around and all that.
Hmm.
But the life force that you get from picking a salad that was just growing a few minutes ago, like
Hmm.
if I go out in my yard and pick, dandelions or violets or chickweed, and it was growing 5 minutes ago before I eat it, you get this feeling of vitality and life force that you don't get from maybe kale that was in the earth 3 or 4 weeks ago.
So how are the
So
people? How are the how was the process? And I get what you're saying, because these things have been around for centuries and they've been proven to work. I do believe in evolution and stuff, and some of these things have to coincide together. But when you're talking about natural plants,
mhm.
I'm still worried about contamination, insects. uh, You know, what are we supposed to do in that instance to make sure our food is safe organically, like you're talking about? Because we've been our brain has been told you got to have a way to make these foods safe.
Absolutely. And, but it's interesting because a lot of the wild plants, they are survivors. They figured out how to survive, even though there's insects, there's pollution, there's, all of that. We, those plants have the intelligence to figure out how to thrive and survive.
Hmm.
And again, you can wash your greens just like you would wash things that you bought from the store. But I also think that being overly hygienic and like using hand sanitizer every 5 minutes can also create antibiotic resistant strains of bacteria. So I do think if I'm going to collect something outside, sure, I'm going to wash it. But I think we've been made to fear the wild and the natural. And I think that it's really way overblown because I feel amazing. And, it seems to work for the clients and my students. And I'm not just, making this up.
Right.
I'm 71, so I have years and years of experience, doing this and seeing that, wow, it really works and it's really fun and it's adventurous and it's a great thing to teach our kids. When my kids were little, Sunflower and Rainbow, and they'd say, Mom, can I have some money? And of course, sure, I'll give you some money, but we're going to take a walk around the block. I'll
Right.
give you a quarter for each plant you can identify, 50 cents if you know the Latin name, and $1 if you can tell me 3 uses of it. So I always
Wow.
felt it's good to know what to do in an emergency because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of emergencies right now on the planet. We are so blessed that, water's still coming out of the tap, but it's not that way for people in a lot of places on the earth, whether it be because of, volcanoes or flooding
Hmm.
or, earthly upheaval. So I think that these are really good skills we should develop. Know what's growing around you, learn to respect it, and yeah, be prepared for anything.
How are your students? You're teaching in college. Two-part question. What have you noticed that you're surprised that people don't know at that level, going from elementary to junior high to high school to college? What have you noticed that surprised you that they should be knowing? And then more importantly, you wrote several books. How are they accepting this, and what are you seeing from the students now?
Well, I just started teaching last Wednesday my new group of students, and I always have them write about their health history.
Hmm.
And a lot of them come from, I'm on antidepressants, I suffer from anxiety, I've been on medicine for having attention deficit for years and years. And they take the class because they're saying, I want to do something else. Maybe in a few years, I want to start a family. I don't want to be on these drugs forever. So they take the class and they learn about not only herbs, but eating more healthfully. I did write a book called Natural Remedies for Mental and Emotional Health.
Hmm.
And so this is one of the books that they use because I'm in the psychology department. And, they learn over the semester that there are other things they can do. And of course, I'm not saying you need to get off all your drugs, but a lot of them say, wow, I feel so much better. I'm eating, excuse me, I'm eating all the colors of the rainbow. I'm having a salad every day. I want to eat less sugar. So my goal really is to inspire them to make healthier choices and also tell them what some of the alternatives are, if they're wanting to do that. And my class is an elective, so They're there because they want to be there.
Let me ask another question too. You, your years of experience. I thank you for bringing that to this show because that is credibility in my book. Based on your experience, do you think a lot of people right now, I know this is just hypothesis right now, theory, but do you think if people spent more time understanding the importance of natural plants, that we wouldn't have such a high rate of um, depression and obesity, insulin resistance? I mean, we see tons of commercials on TV, and it's usually a repetitive cycle. It's either depression, or it's weight, or it's beautification.
Hmm.
Do you think
Well,
if we spent more time understanding the importance of nature itself and the resources, which is natural plants and herbs that have been given to us free will, that maybe we wouldn't have these issues going on in this world?
absolutely, Andre. And yet, it seems that as a culture, we've given the responsibility of our health over to someone else. Like, I heard someone at a party say, I have high blood pressure, but my doctor's going to get it down. And I said, don't you think you should try to get it down? Like, drink less coffee, maybe take up meditation, maybe eat less sugar, maybe use less salt. I mean, so, but it seems that people just want to take a pill because that's what's marketed to them.
Hmm.
And I don't think that medicine, modern medicine, has done enough to give people ideas that you might be sick because you're eating something you're allergic to. I think a lot of people have health issues because they eat gluten or dairy or soy. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's sensitive to those things, but I'm really here, and I love that you use the word empower because I'm really here to help empower people to say there are things you can do. Unfortunately, most people's insurance only is going to pay for drugs and surgery.
Hmm.
If you want to start, going to the health food store and buying herbs or supplements, that's going to be your own dime. But the good news is a lot of these things you could be growing. You could be walking more and finding them growing in the fields and forests.
Hmm.
Indiana used to be a real hub of natural medicine.
Really?
Yes, Indiana Botanic Gardens was an, old herb
Yeah, I've
company.
been there before. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so, I've always had great respect. A lot of wonderful herbs grew there. Golden seal, for example, wild ginseng. And yeah, we kind of forgot about it. So I'm just here to remind people that there really is great beauty, great wisdom, and empowerment that can come, and get back to that and read more about it. There's so much information. I've written 17 books that give people ideas. One is the Country Almanac of
Uh-huh.
Home Remedies. This is like folk remedies like my grandmother would have used, like what you can do with garlic and cabbage and vinegar.
Right.
You can save time, save money, save your health, save the planet, help the bees, save water. It's really quite beautiful. And then everything becomes really a prayer. And rather than someone doing something to you, it's like, well, look, there's a lot I can do. And maybe you won't need those drugs.
You wrote 17 books.
Mhm.
That's a lot of information. Which
Yeah, I want to
three?
make sure my kids have that information when I'm gone. Like when you're not going to be able to call mom and ask what to do, it's in the books. But yeah, I'm really happy. Natural Remedies for Mental and Emotional Health just came out last week, and we don't really get yet that depression could be due to inflammation, to allergy, to dysfunction of the liver, eating too many fried foods, chips, things like that. Like there's a lot you can do rather than like, oh, I'm so depressed. There's things you can do, but if you want to be on drugs your whole life, you can do that. But if you want to try something else that's going to make you feel great, I'm here to help.
Out of the 17 books, which are the three that what are three that people need to really read to understand your mission? Because a lot of people, when you say 17, they go, "Wow, do I really want to read 17?" All knowledge is power. But you got 17 books. What are the three starters that people need to focus on first?
Well, the Country Almanac is a really nice book for like looking up, I have a headache, I have a stomach ache, I have a bladder infection, I can't sleep. This is full of that in kind of information.
Hmm.
Natural first aid is like, oh my God, I just got stung by a bee, or I'm bleeding, or someone had shock. This can save your life. But I just want to say again, natural remedies for mental and emotional health, just because so many people are depressed, anxious, suffer from OCD,
Hmm.
ADHD, lots of labels. There seems to be this misconception that the mind and body are separate, but we know that the physical body can affect the mental body, and the mental body can affect the physical body. So, these are three, but they're kind of all like my little children, and I think there's value in all of them, but those would be three. But I will just say the sexual herbal, but that's kind of like icing on the cake.
What is explain that one? Go back to that one. Why is that the icing on the cake?
Well, it's kind of like, you can live without, sexual pleasure, but although you might not procreate, but this is like about menopause and prostate health and, yeast infection, and also things that enhance libido, keep your love alive. That's important. Keep your
Certain
love
things,
alive.
yeah, yeah, kind of like, okay, this is something that we know exists, but you're saying here's a book, it does exist, these issues exist, you need to also educate yourself into that area as well. Let's go back for a minute. I'm looking at that beautiful illustration behind me. What is that behind you right now?
Well, it's something I bought online from a company called Punayama,
Hmm.
and I would say it's kind of like psychedelic art.
Okay.
Um, and the word psychedelic means to reveal the soul, but we kind of, our house is sort of it's, there's like a tie-dye thing.
Okay.
These are things that make me look really happy. But yeah, I really like this art right there. And then yes, there's chakra. We have a lot of fun here. There's a light there, a little stool you can take your shoes off, shaped like a mushroom. I'd say that our house is sort of whimsical, and it's designed to help inspire feelings of spirituality and environmental consciousness. As I said, Andre, I'm 71. I've never learned to drive a car. I live right downtown Boulder. I'm here to help the creator, help the planet, help the people, bring people together with the plants. And I'm so honored that you asked me to be on your show. And I hope we get to chat again.
So let me ask you a question before we wrap up, and thank you so much for coming and sharing this universal message of plants and herbs. First of all, how can the viewers reach out to you to get your book, to know more about you? I know your schedule is really busy with teaching and stuff, but how can the viewers reach out to you for more information?
I have a brand new website, and it's BrigitteMars.com. You just have to spell Brigitte correctly. It's the French way. I speak French. And yeah, BrigitteMars.com. My books are on there. They're all on Amazon. They're on Kindle. But I'm here to help. So catch me while you can. I'm delighted to be of service, and it's been a pleasure and
Vergis, you better tell them how to spell that name.
okay. Brigitte, Mars, like the planet, Mars, Brigitte Mars. Andre, you're a beautiful man and a wonderful host. Thank you so much.
How can leave the viewers with something that keeps you in that beast frame of mind? I mean, I love that universal energy that you're giving off. Uh, I like the fact that everything about you is about peace, love, and harmony. How do you stay in that beast frame of mind?
I say prayer, eating healthfully, doing yoga, walking more. And I'm also really big on, I keep a day planner, and I do cool stuff every day, I
Right.
try to keep track of it. Where do you put your consciousness? What do you choose to read, to watch, to listen to? All of that goes into your brain and affects your thought. So I try to keep it high vibe. And, I do it all for the highest good. That's always my prayer.
Leave the viewers with something that only you can leave them with.
Okay, well, a proverb that I like a lot, and it's not just me, it's an ancient proverb, but it says, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is now, although maybe we have to wait till spring.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.